Welcome back to another episode of 22 with the Lips. This is the podcast to everybody, whether you're in EMS, the healthcare field as itself, somebody thinking about joining the EMS, first responders, police officers, the fire department, whoever you are, everybody, it's welcome. If you're a bystander, you're welcome. So I've had quite a number of episodes. I've had quite a number of people on, and I try to make it as diverse as I can. I try to get like I said, diverse, a variety of people on that we can all reflect from, things that are relevant to this field. And today is pretty much a lot of that. I have with me David Givot, as you said, give it to me. He has quite an extensive background, resume, pretty stellar. He has been involved in the EMS field for about 35 years. I'm not saying it's older than me, but a little bit. He is actually a paramedic turned into a lawyer, which I think is super impressive. Located in California, the great state. And he talks about that in why I invited him on his book, Sirens, Lights, and Lawyers. As you can see, I've dictated, notated, tore it apart, cover to cover. I'm a huge fan. I learned a lot. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from, whether you're new to the field, you've been in this field for the eons of time since pterodactyls responded to calls, whatever, the times of mass pans, but that's neither here nor there. So, Mr. Givot, if you would like to tell the people who you are, what you stand for, go ahead, my guy.
I think you have just done the most amazing job of that. And the best thing you said is you're a fan. I don't have any fans, but I got to get my wife to answer calls sometimes. No, you did a great job. I got into EMS by accident, pretty much, as you can see in the first part of the book, and fell in love. And that is where I made my home for years and years and years. Eventually worked my way up and out, as providers need to do, lest they go crazy, and ultimately became a lawyer who emphasizes defending and protecting EMS providers, EMTs, paramedics, nurses, firefighters, pretty much any licensed professional, but primarily those first responders, because those are the ones that have my heart. And here I am. I decided one day that I wasn't reaching enough people, because I travel across the country and I do lectures and I do classes and I do conferences and things, and I love doing that. I love being in front of a large group of people and just talking. But I wasn't reaching, I don't think, as many people as I thought I could or as I wanted. So I put this book together. I wrote a book, and now it's for everybody to have. And just like you with your tabs of paper in there can refer back to it. And now it's like my third new favorite thing to talk about. So let's go. What do you want to talk about? Bring it.
Yeah. There's a lot to take away from. There's a lot to reflect from. And we'll talk about it in a second. However, I would like to ask some rapid fire questions.
Do it.
And get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
So, first off, very important. What's your favorite color?
Blue. And the strangest thing is, I was about to say blue before you asked that question. Isn't that weird? Maybe it's the delay in the internet. I don't know, but blue.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
So my next question.
Got it. Hit me.
What is your favorite part of EMS?
That is really hard. I think for me personally, and this is going to sound totally fake, but for me personally, it is the idea of being able to help someone who can't help themselves in a moment where they at least believe they can't help themselves. I think that it's been a long time. I think that's what drew me to it initially. But I just love the idea of being the one someone calls when things go bad. And I don't know if that's true. That's just what I think right now. Because that's probably true for everyone. That's probably true for you too, right? That's probably true for everybody.
No, 100%. And like, I can relate to that idea because I joined EMS. I'm going to talk about it like you talked about in your book, but kind of like by accident. And it literally, I wanted to go into the field because I wanted to be the person that people call, and kind of like the person you call knows what to do when you're helpless.
Yes, I think then good. Maybe I'm right. I also just love the look on people's faces when you can answer questions that, which I get to do now too. But yeah, I think it's probably both the same and different for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has their own reason. I think that it's like everyone's origin story of joining EMS is unique. Nobody
Correct.
has the same story.
Mm-mm.
I'm not gonna lie, I also like being on scene and like lifting up on a patient or carrying something, and right before, it's always this, oh, do you need help? And I'm like, nah, I got this. Welcome to the gun show. Safety off.
Got it. So you got a bit of a Norma Ray thing going too. I got you. If I don't know if you know who that is, but yeah. If you don't, go to IMDb, you'll see.
I'll go look him up.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't get my feelings hurt.
You will not. She was an inspiration. Don't worry. You'll be, it's a good thing.
Perfect. My last question. What is your dream vacation?
Oh, that's easy, dude. Anywhere Royal Caribbean will take me in the Southern Caribbean that involves St. Martin and a day at Maho Beach. Yeah.
Is it
That's
the
an easy
beach
one.
aspect?
It is the disconnected aspect. You've got the real world all around you, but you're in a fantasy land. And I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise. It's the best vacation ever. I don't know if you've ever been to Maho Beach in St. Martin, but that is for people like us that love action and relaxing at the same time, because it's that beach you can find on YouTube where the airplanes land right over the beach. They're so close you can almost reach out and touch them. Yeah. Check it out on YouTube. You'll see. It's pretty amazing.
Might just add it to the bucket list of if I ever have enough time and money to nilly-willy go on a vacation.
You will get there. You'll get there.
Maybe I'll become a lawyer first. No, I'm just kidding.
Do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it, believe me.
I can argue like nobody's business. So, all right. Diving into the book, I first want to point out, looking at my notes, like, I love the idea of your journey to where you are today versus like in the very beginning. It shows that being in the EMS field, career, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't stop on the box. It doesn't stop where you get your EMT, advanced, whatever, paramedic, and then you are solely dedicated, selling your soul to the box or the Sprinter van, whatever you're running. But you can use EMS as like a stepping stone, and that's what a lot of people do. Not everybody does, but it's not just like a stepping stone to being a nurse or going into like med school or whatever, but like you can breach your horizons. You can use what you learn in EMS and take it so much further. I love it. I do want to dive in like the very beginning of your journey in the book,
Okay.
literally. I love when you talked about, looking at my notes, like your very first ride time and
Yes.
that shock and awe. And like you said, I'm going to quote it. I remember vividly that it was in that moment I found myself thinking, this is where I belong. And I read that while I was on shift, and I looked at my partner and I'm like almost in tears because I just remember my first ride time, like being in the back. I think we were going to a psychiatric call. Like that was the first call of the shift. But like being in the back, riding to that call, making that patient interaction, like even dropping off the hospital, I went into EM school thinking like, I'm going to eventually be a nurse. Like, I don't want to be an EMS. It's gross. It's dirty. It's going to give me PTSD. All of the above is correct. But
If you don't have it yet, you will.
it's inevitable. But I just remember that moment where it felt like everything clicked. And I remember thinking like, I can't imagine myself doing anything else besides this. Maybe just for a little while, but like, this is it. This is the coolest thing on the planet. Do I still think that? Some days, not every day, but for the most part,
Wouldn't
I
I think
loved
it's
it.
true? Yeah, I think it's true for each of us. I think there's only a very small portion of EMS providers who do it because it pays, because it's the patch, because it's the what gets them laid at bars. I think that is far and away the minority. I think most providers, at least the ones that I know, started whether they intended to get in or whether, like me, they got in kind of by accident. There had to be a moment, just sounds like just like for you too, where there was just 1 second where it clicked and you go, oh my God, what did I want to do before? Because I don't even remember that. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is where I meant to be. That I think the providers that start that way, and I say with all humility, the providers that start that way are the ones who are meant to do that. And you are, if I read your bio right, you're young, you're kind of just starting. It's only been a couple of years for you, right?
Yes, sir.
And there's right now, as young as you are and as much fun as you're having, as we're sitting here having this conversation, there are countless people out there living their lives right now, not even thinking for 1 second that they're going to depend on you to keep them alive, to keep their family together, to keep, give them another anniversary, another Christmas. And not that many. You have to have the soul for this to take on that responsibility. And that's kind of who this is for.
Yeah. And I feel like it's this overarching theme of what you just touched on, like this overarching theme in your book of the sheer responsibility of this job. And
Yes.
I remember in paramedic school, like it hit hard. I think we were in cardiology, and it just kind of hit me like, if I don't know these rhythms and I can't identify them, I could give the wrong medication and literally kill this patient. Or I don't want to say bring them back. That's just this stupid heroic complex, but I can help do my part. And just like that responsibility just weighed on me. And it hasn't lifted since. And that's a lot of
It
what I
never
feel like you
does.
talk in your book. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I hope it never does lift, because once it does, that's when you become lazy and complacent.
And then it's time to get out the field. Yeah. I'm not going to go into a whole rant about salty paramedics and the complacency that kills the drive and more than likely potentially could create harm for your patients.
Oh,
And then
it's not
like it,
potentially, it's real. It's a fact. I learned that in my internship, that complacency kills. And if you find yourself there and can't get yourself out, you need to find something else to do.
exactly. And we'll get into that in a little bit because you touch on it in your
You're
book.
good. You're good.
But so okay, next point. If you're thinking to yourself right now, why even read this book? Why is this relevant to me? I know how to avoid going to court ever, or if I do, I get a good lawyer, attorney, and I'm good to go. Let me point out something for you. So, Mr. Givot states in his book, he said, I've done my time in the field, but I'm nowhere near finished with EMS. I've written this book for you for 3 very specific reasons. First, to offer you the kind of information that will serve to keep you safe in the field. Next, to offer you the kind of information that will serve to keep your patients safe. Lastly, to remind you that yours is about the most important contribution one can offer to society, and that you're either in it to be the best, to do the best, and if not, to accept that maybe it is time to consider doing something else.
100%. That's been my, if you ask anybody that I worked with 30 years ago, they'll tell you that that's been my philosophy my entire career, my entire life.
And I think it's vital. Like I've talked about so many times on the podcast, and I talk about it on a shiftly basis. When you start creating shortcuts and cutting corners and treating every call like it's just another one, you're giving a disservice to your patients and yourself and your reputation. And also your entire shift does itself with you and your partner, because that kind of attitude just like it kills the vibe. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it kills the vibe.
That's a very 2023 way to put it. Back when the pterodactyls flew and mask pants were a thing, it was the morale, it was the camaraderie, right? Everybody knew that there was at least one provider in every agency that was like, had a nickname like Dr. Death or something like that. And I'm sure that's true today. And nobody did anything back then. But they got talked about, right? And it kind of killed every agency, every area, they all want to think that they're the best. And they can't be if they've got that provider there. So you are correct. It is the lazy and the complacent and the corner cutters that not only deal bad cards to their patients, but to you too, right? The community can't tell you apart. Each of you is the same as the other. So when one of you displays bad behavior, that is not just a reflection on the rest of you. That's how those people are going to think about the rest of you. And so one of the things I talk about in the book is to weed them out. You have to serve a higher purpose. And sometimes it means cutting the dead weight.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking. Was that what we're talking about? I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all connects. And it's like something I heard one time, even though we go on all these calls, even though we meet all these patients, 99% of the time, we don't remember some of these calls. We don't remember names. And we're going to talk about why it's so important to have your narrative tip top and in top-notch state, so you can remember these calls.
Indeed.
But we meet all these people, we have it on these calls. But for some of these people, you may be the only EMS field responder that they meet their entire life. And like, if that doesn't hit different, if that doesn't kind of like, for me, it kicks me in the gut a little bit, because I'm like, if I'm being a butthole to somebody, I'm representing the entire field. And I don't want to, I'm not being dramatic with that. Like, that's part of it.
Yes. That not only is that a part of it, not only does it reflect poorly on everybody else, but remember that everybody who calls, even the dumb ones, even the worst, most unnecessary middle of the night pain in the ass, even they deserve to be treated like everybody else with the highest amount of compassion and care and integrity, because to them, this is their emergency. And if you lose sight of that, it's only going to be an avalanche of other bad things that come down on you if you do that. And so it's not just the field that it reflects poorly on, it's actual care of the community and everyone who's depending on you. I get a little preachy sometimes, but sounds like we're on the same page.
I mean, if you want to go off, go ahead. There was something said in my EMT class that has stuck with me since. The calls we go to, even though we are emergency medical services, responders, whatever you want to call us, not every call is going to be life and death. Not every call. It's not necessarily that people call because they're having a life-threatening emergency. It's the idea that they're calling for help. There is something going on beyond their capabilities, beyond their understanding of what's going on. Even if it's that call to check vital signs. Moment of peace for my will to go on in this field when we get those. But anyways, again, treating it like it's very important, because if you take that lightly, you're going to be surprised by that blood pressure that makes your gluteus maximus pucker. But so
that's not actually the part that puckers, but I got you.
Trying to keep dignity in front of the lawyer, man.
I'm paramedic first, believe me. As you read in the book, I'm not shy with my language. Although I assume this is a family show, so I'll keep it clean for you.
Well, my mama listens.
Oh, definitely. I definitely don't want to offend your mama or anyone's mama for that matter.
So, anyways, no, absolutely. We're on the same wavelength, and it's all covered in this book. I'm going to recommend this book over and over. It's a good book, but we'll dive into it.
The 22 at the Lips podcast is designed to support, not replace, the relationship that exists between a practitioner and his or her medical director. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host, guest, and not necessarily of Master Medics. The information provided during this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for your approved protocols.